Hello and welcome to the Daily Millwall for Friday the 21st of October 2022. A lot going on in today's video, so we're just going to jump into it and we'll try and get through it as quickly as we can. I'm not one for milestones. Gary Rowetts clocks up 3 years as Millwall manager. This is from londonnewsonline.co.uk. Gary Rowetts clocked up 3 years in charge of Millwall today, but the experienced boss says he pays little attention to those kinds of personal achievements. The 48-year-old Midlander is the second longest serving boss in the Championship, with only Coventry City's Mark Robins having a longer tenure. I'm not one for milestones, Rowett, who has won 60 and drawn 46 of his 103 matches in charge, told the South London Press. I'm not one for I've done this or I've done that. We just quietly go about our work. We've had to endure a little bit of noise this year, with a few people unsettled among the fan base, but what we're hoping is we've continually worked and proved a few doubters wrong. He's talking about you, he is. You. Making noise. You let your team hopefully do the talking on the pitch. At the moment, with the results we've had, they've certainly done that. I'll just get on with my job and crack on with it. I'm too busy going up and down the motorway and ordering train tickets to worry too much about how long I've been somewhere. And that's another weird little comment there. We know that he has a flat in Canary Wharf, and he does, but his home is still in the Midlands, so he's doing a lot of travelling. So he's mentioning it there in this interview. Weird. I just get on with my job and crack on with it. I'm too busy going up and down the motorway and ordering train tickets to worry too much about how long I've been somewhere. That's a weird thing to say. Millwall face West Brom next in SC16 tomorrow, and Rowetts underlined his side must stay grounded after an impressive 3-0 win over Watford on Wednesday. Yes, Watford were level on points going into the game, but when you look at the players they have available, you don't look at them as anything other than a top 6 team, says the Lions chief. That is what you have to do. You have to respect their quality. You have to respect the individual players. Liverpool were trying to buy Ismail Sarr for 40 million not so long ago. It's the same with West Brom. If Mill start looking at games thinking, well, we win this one because we're in the table, we're there in the table, and they are there. We know it doesn't work like that. Indeed, Mill have a strange history of beating teams at the top of the table and losing teams at the bottom. So it could go either way, especially in this league. This league is absolutely crazy. The one thing I would say though, home games and away games. This is a home game, so it's in our advantage that we might possibly win it. Where they are in the table makes them probably even more dangerous. Yes, they've just dropped into the bottom 3 after a poor result in midweek. I think they lost at home to Bristol City. And we've got to make sure we're even more on our game and at the races in the same way we were on Wednesday night. Anything less than that sort of performance and we won't win the game. We know what we are and we've got to do it. We'll let other teams worry about where they are in the league, but we'll respect West Brom with the good players that they have got. Indeed, good players that they've got. And Jed Wallace, obviously we'll get onto that later, coming back to the Den for the first time since he moved to West Brom in the summer, saying he had ambitions to get in the Premier League and is now in the relegation places in the Championship. And Millwall are higher in the table than them. But he's could be going up against Scott Malone this weekend. How's that going to go? Probably not. It's kind of worrying, but we'll see. We'll see. Can Scott Malone step up? I don't know what he does in training against Jed Wallace. Maybe he does all right against them. So we don't know because they played on the same team, but we shall see. Moving on now to this, Millwall players not discussing playoff prospects despite 3 straight Championship wins. Exactly, yes. It's a long way to go. Just take each game as it comes. This is also from londonnewsonline.co.uk. Sean Hutchinson says that the playoffs have not even been discussed by Millwall's players, despite being a side just 1 point outside the Championship top 6. Indeed, they should be just talking about winning the league. It's still very much a real possibility. The Lions disposed of Watford in SC16 on Wednesday night thanks to Tom Bradshaw's hat-trick, and Hutchinson was keen to praise his teammate. We looked really good in the first half, caused them a threat, and they couldn't really handle it. Thus, it's nice to go 3-0 up. Bradshaw put himself in the right positions, and sometimes when you're playing the formation that we are playing in with Flemming in the 10, it gives him the responsibility of always being a focal point in the box for tap-ins. When you're playing two up top, you can get carried away trying to do too much. He's playing that position really well just now. He's been clinical, and tonight will have given him a lot of confidence to move forward too. We won't always be like we were in the first half. When something's working, there's no need to change it. Somebody was saying on the pitch, it's working, so let's keep doing it. And it showed in the end that put us 3 goals up. Watford have struggled with playing back-to-back matches since the appointment of Slaven Bilic. These 2 wins so far have come after a full week without a game, and that's something the Lions skipper alluded to. On paper, if you look at their attacking force, they are a right handful. In a midweek game after a Saturday, teams could be a little bit sluggish. The main focus is making sure we started well. When you start well, it sort of takes the wind out of their sails, and you could see that for the first 10 minutes. They were sort of at it, but as the goals kept going in, you could see them getting a little bit deflated, and the flair players maybe not fancying it too much. We managed the game really well and just dealt with all of their threats really well, other than a little bit of sloppiness towards the end. Jake Cooper earned praise from his manager for performance, and Hutchinson echoed those words. He's becoming a big threat in these deeper free kicks and these throws because he's just such a handful to deal with in the air, and even when he doesn't win it. He attracts 3 or 4 people to the ball, and that frees up other people. His performances over the last few weeks have been really, really good. It's important we get him playing to his higher stability because he's a top defender in this division. Tomorrow we'll see Jed Wallace make his first, well aware of the quality the former Millwall man possesses. It'll be interesting. He'll be at it. We all know his quality, so it's important for us to keep him as quiet as we can. But also, we've got a job to do. And if we keep playing like we're playing and not slacking up at all, then that gives us a chance to keep the run going. Victory tomorrow could see the Lions move into the top 6, but the playoffs are not on the mind of Hutchinson and his teammates. We haven't even discussed that as a team. The most important thing that we're looking at is it being a tough unit and hard to beat. At times at the start of the season, we were conceding goals. We're a bit fragile in terms of conceding goals. The most important thing is focusing on being hard to beat and being a proper Millwall team. Indeed, very true. Well said, Sean Hutchinson. Now we have this exclusive interview from PlaymakerStats.com. Zian Flemming's been talking to him. So growing pains stymied Zian Flemming's progress coming through at Ajax, but the informed Millwall midfielder is now flexing his muscles to great effect in the Championship. A teenage growth spurt saw Flemming suffer from a medical condition that slowed his progress through the ranks of the Dutch Giants Academy. So while the likes of Matthias de Ligt rocketed to superstardom in the first team, Flemming had to be patient and adjust his sights. Matthias was 1 year younger than me, so he wasn't always in my team, but we trained and played together. When he came to a certain age, like 15 or 16, he developed outrageously quickly. Before you knew it, he was in the first team playing in the Europa League and then captain of Ajax. I had a lot of problems with my knees and heels at around 17 because I was growing so quickly. I was missing training and games for maybe a year and a half. When I came back from the injury, I first needed a year in the under-18s to get to know my new body. After that, when I felt ready, Ajax didn't pick me initially in the under-19s. However, when I did come back into the team, I started scoring lots of goals, and that's where my celebration comes from. It symbolises getting up, keeping fighting, and when you're knocked down and never giving up. Inspired by MMA fighter Nate Diaz's triumphant pose after he famously upset the notorious Conor McGregor, Flemming's goal celebration has been regularly in evidence over recent weeks, as he scored 5 goals in his last 6 games for a Millwall side who appear on the up. QPR's Chris Willock and Sheffield United's Iliman Ndiaye are the only midfielders to score more goals in the second tier than Flemming so far this season. And after 24 strikes in 2 campaigns in the Dutch top flight for Fortuna Sittard, the 24-year-old is relishing the challenge of proving himself in a league renowned for being ultra competitive. Flemming's successful spell at Fortuna followed a productive stint in the Dutch second tier with NEC, Nijmegen, after he was released by Ajax. However, he took his game to another level at Fortuna, scoring 27 goals and contributing 11 assists during a 2-year stay that ended with him scoring 5 goals in 4 games to stave off relegation. Given his impressive output in the Eredivisie, it is perhaps surprising that Flemming chose the Den for the next phase in development, but it's clear he had his reasons. At Fortuna, there was not enough of a challenge anymore. Including the cup, I'd scored 27 goals in 2 seasons. There was nothing to prove other than to see if I could do it again for a third season, which wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to see if I could do what I did at Fortuna, but at a different level. If one of the big Eredivisie clubs had been seriously interested, that would have been a very good option. But they didn't come in, and Millwall are a great club. The passion for the club and for the sport is real here. When we play well and the fans join us, we're really strong. Snapped up for a club record fee of £1.6 million, Millwall's big summer signing was tagged by some as a Bermondsey Bergkamp on his arrival at the Den, but Flemming is adamant that the pressure is a privilege and that basically he felt none. Not only but that doing the business in the summer, spending the money in the summer, you've seen what's happened to the pound since then. It's kind of gone down quite a bit steadily since then. And he would cost, in terms of pounds, because obviously Fortuna, I don't give a fuck about pounds, they want euros. I guess that Millwall must have paid them in euros and had it converted. That would have cost Millwall a lot more money if they did it in January now than it would be then. So that's something else to notice as well. To be honest, I was just happy to be here. I wasn't following the news that closely, but I did notice that the supporters were happy and I was just excited. I didn't feel any negative pressure, just my own pressure to prove myself at this level. Although often overlooked or downplayed, the challenges of adapting to a new country and culture are very real. Flemming, however, has taken the move from the Netherlands to England comfortably in his stride and been pleasantly surprised with how smooth the transition has been off the pitch. The main challenge at the beginning was just to get an apartment, move all my furniture and get settled in London, really. Even with support, there are just so many things to sort out. Obviously, you're adapting to your new team, new country and new culture. Yeah, I mentioned this before in terms of away travelling. Obviously, in the Netherlands, the country is quite small. It's probably the size of East Anglia. It takes like 90 minutes to get from one end to the other. And we've got a lot of northern trips this season, so that's obviously a big, massive culture change. But there's something else I just realised. Hills. Like going up to Forest Hill and looking down over the city, Hampstead Heath, shit like that. Shooters Hill, Greenwich. They don't fucking have hills in Holland, do they? He must be like getting vertigo going up all these hills. Yeah. When I came, I thought the English and Dutch would be very similar, but they're not really in general. English people are way nicer to each other. What? Really? Really? The attacking midfielder's dazzling form of late suggests that he can't be. He's not living in London, then is he? The attacking midfielder's dazzling form of late suggests that he has settled seamlessly into English football as well, but he admits that life in the Championship does take some getting used to. You can't literally compare leagues, but the Dutch league is generally more possession-based and more patient. The physicality of the players stands out in the Championship. There are no easy matchups. Every team has strong defenders, strong midfielders, and dangerous attackers. The biggest difference is that it's much more direct than in the Netherlands, where some teams would be happy just controlling a game by having the ball, for example. Yeah, don't do that here, mate. Fans can be happy with that. Millwall fans, other teams might like that. Here, it's about being effective and a threat to your opponent's goal. I like it, and it's good for me as a player to experience it. There's nothing wrong with the Dutch way as well, and maybe the ideal might lie in the middle of the two styles. A quick look at Flemming's stats this season showed that he offers Millwall a real goal threat, ranking 5th for shots taken and 4th for shots on target in the whole of the Championship this season. And not just for Millwall, the whole league. He is a midfielder with genuine eye for goal, and he dismisses the suggestion that he's more deep lying forward. I'm a midfielder, don't you know? Just one who wants to get in good areas outside and inside the box. I know that if I get in good areas, I have the quality and ability to score with both feet. In possession, I have the freedom to move and try to be dangerous. Defensively, I've got my job like everyone else to help get the ball back. Following Wednesday's impressive 3-0 win over Watford, Gary Rowetts, South Londoners sit 8th, which I think it's changed since then. Which in classic championship tradition means they are just 4 points off top spot, but only 7 points clear of Blackpool in 21st. Flemming believes the Lions can draw confidence from their start this season and look upwards, and he is convinced that their biggest strength is the unity that exists behind the scenes. In the dressing room, I can't name one player who isn't a good lad. Everyone gets along well with each other, wants the best for the team, and puts the team first. I think that philosophy runs through the squad and the whole club, really. One new element of life in an English dressing room is the weekly banter surrounding fantasy football. Millwall's players have created their own mini-league, which is currently topped by midfielder Ryan Leonard, who Flemming admits he is some way behind. We're playing the Fantasy Premier League game with the whole team. I'm not giving up. This was the first time I had played and I had to figure it out. I didn't even know how you scored points, so I'm reading up and working it out. I didn't have Ireland in my team for the first 2 months, so that's why I'm not on top. Although he was understandably unaware of it, Playmaker pointed out during his interview that there was a championship fantasy football game available for when he has got the hang of it. If he does give it a go, splashing 6 million of fantasy cash on a free scoring midfielder named Flemming looks a very sound investment. Indeed. So there you go, that exclusive interview with PlaymakerStats.com. Very interesting stuff there with Zian Flemming. Interesting to hear more about the lad. Moving on now to this opinion piece from LondonFootballScene.co.uk about the formation change and what it's done to the club. We all know what it's done, but let's have a read of this. After a slow start to the season, 3 consecutive championship wins have propelled Millwall back towards the top of the table and reignited discussions of a playoff challenge. A lack of goals, defensive solidity, and to some extent excitement had some Lions fans fearing they may be in for a very long season, but Wednesday night hammering of Watford has sparked life into the den. It's no coincidence. Millwall's sharp upturn in form has come with Gary Rowetts' return to a 4-2-3-1 formation. A more front-footed approach that many have been crying out for to replace the 5 at the back which had been used for the past 2 seasons. Early performances this term were all too reminiscent of the final weeks of Neil Harris's tenure, when the Lions looked too cautious, unable to win on the road, and heading for a rut. This time, however, positive action seems to have had an instant impact. Mill's points per game have drastically risen from 1.8 with a back 5 to 2.33 with a back 4, 2.5 after the final whistle on Wednesday. Yeah, I showed you that in yesterday's video. It was a Sky graphic, they put that up. With the shift, the goals have increased, the defence has tightened, and Millwall are looking more proactive off the ball. But what has actually changed for Millwall? Rowett admitted after the win over Watford that the switch made his side more compact, harder to play against and break down. The Mill boss also went on to voice concerns that with one less defender on the pitch, more opposition chances could be created. However, the return to fitness of Sean Hutchinson paired with the return to form Jake Cooper has meant the Lions have gone from conceded 1.36 non-penalty XG per match to just 0.64. And not only that, but since that formation change, it has been proven against Rotherham, against Middlesbrough, against Bristol City, against Watford. In each of those games, we have only let the opposition have 1 shot on target. In each of those games. And they've had like double figures. So they've had like 10 shots. Well, except for in the Rotherham game, they didn't. They've had like something like 10 shots, 12 shots, whatever. Only 1 on target. So, I mean, that's not a coincidence, is it? 4 games. Each of those games, only 1 shot on target. Despite the small sample size, it is easy to see Millwall have been much more secure since the change, with the midfield partnership of George Saville and Billy Mitchell another key factor. While Rowett took time to find a settled midfield duo, the pair have been in supreme form over the last few matches. Saville's impressive defensive numbers are hard to ignore, while Mitchell has shown a progressiveness and maturity has only been seen in glimpses over the past few seasons. On the duo's midfield transformation, Rowett said, "You can argue the formation might help them feel more confident, might help them because they feel more comfortable in it, but they've still got to play well." Despite the change in shape, Rowett insists the style and ethos his side play with has not altered, explaining it's still the same principles. "We work very hard when the goalkeeper's got the ball, how we set our press up and how we set those traps. We work very hard on the first pressure, how we apply it, where we apply it, and the balance behind the ball. Then we work very hard when we get into shape so that everybody's active in the defensive process. The biggest thing is that the formation gives you the obvious differences. Your two players higher up the pitch wider, so as soon as you win the ball, you can actually get into an attacking third quicker. Having more bodies higher up the pitch has definitely had a huge impact on Millwall's goal out. Lions fans had become accustomed to Benicophobia and Tom Bradshaw cutting lonely figures at the top of the pitch, feeding off scraps as the side struggled to move the ball into attacking areas. I think that was our problem playing a 5. We weren't quite moving the ball well enough to get enough bodies further forward in the that. I don't necessarily think it was a formation, it was just how we played. If you get it wrong, it looks a bit disjointed. As much as those at the back of it form, so have the players at the top end, with Zian Flemming now playing in the more familiar number 10 role, starting to show his prowess in front of goal. The underlying numbers once again showed a drastic upward trajectory, with Millwall going from a 1.14 XG per game to 1.51. Not only are the Lions starting to create more chances with more attacking and dangerous positions, but they are starting to create better quality ones as well. Rowett also underlined the benefit of having more players higher up the pitch, saying you don't perhaps have to pass the ball quite so well or quite so accurately to get into attacking positions. Bradshaw is a good foil for the three behind him. He wins so many things where he backs into people and works so hard that the ball drops and the other three can come into play without having to pass our way into those areas. Having players around the strikers certainly helped Millwall move into dangerous areas quicker, while off the ball allowing them to be more aggressive. Rowett isn't one to change a winning formula, and Lions fans will keep expecting the type of performance they saw against Watford. Whether this side can maintain that intensity is Millwall's next challenge. Indeed. So we're gonna I'm just gonna mention this first and then we're gonna move into previewing the West Brom game. This is Millwall Football Club and DKMS team up this Saturday, so tomorrow for West Bromwich Albion game. Millwall Football Club will be hosting a stem cell donor registration event in association with DKMS on 22nd of October ahead of the Lions Sky Bet Championship fixture with West Bromwich Albion taking place in Zampa's Family Fun Zone. The event will run from 1 to 2:30. Now, that is Zampa's Family Fun Zone is the thing they brought back. I think now that the weather started to turn. Basically, the Ballina Sports Ground. To the left of the Lions store, the indoor football pitch that the kids play in, that's in there. DKMS works with patients with blood cancer or blood disorders. One such patient is 11-month-old Josie. Josie was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder and congenital disease, which means she cannot be independent like other children at her age. Even though she has to have an ongoing medical appointment, she tried to enjoy life by doing arts, crafts, singing, dancing, and spending time with her sister. The only long-term treatment option for her is to have a stem cell transplant, which she urgently needs. A total of 25% of patients find a match, but Josie has not been able to do so and is reliant on a stranger. As just 3% of people in the UK are on a donor register, patients are faced with a stark reality that their life may be cut short because of the lack of available matching donors. A total of 72% of patients will find a NOR-related matching donor. For those from minority ethnic communities, this drops significantly to 37%. So the registration event is being held to give Millwall supporters the opportunity to register as potential stem cell donors by swabbing their cheeks with the hope of finding a match. Patients like Josie. People can also donate money on the day, and the money will be of great help as each potential donor can cost £40 for blood stem cell registration. This covers the cost of the swab kit, postage, and world-leading genotyping. We do not charge donors a registration fee, but welcome whatever contribution that can be made towards the cost. So they want your blood and your money. Yeah, I don't know if this is your thing, but Millwall doing this. if you ever got help from other people, donated blood and whatever, maybe you could be the one to pay it back, pay it forward, whatever it is, and help out. If you've been helped in the past, or your family have been helped in the past, maybe this is something you might be interested in. And then you can find out more by visiting dkms.org.uk. So there you go. Now moving on now. Obviously, West Brom game tomorrow. Jed Wallace is back. We've got three stories about Jed Wallace coming back. Yeah, I know. Millwall boss ready for Jed Wallace's return to the den. So Gary Rowetts talking about it. The attacker is arguably even West Brom's best player so far this season. Gary Rowetts is excited by the prospect of facing former Lion Jed Wallace at the den this weekend. Wallace, 28, left Millwall on a free transfer over the summer, joining the Championship West Brom on a 4-year deal. The Mercurial forward posted a tweet on Sunday night saying that he wanted 90 minutes of dogs abuse followed by a small clap after the game if you want. And I believe that was in response to that Millwall podcast saying, putting out tweets saying, how do you think? They put up a poll, I think, and one of the options was what he said there, dogs abuse in the club, and there was other things as well. Which Rout is also expecting at SC16 on Saturday afternoon. I think Jed has alluded to it. You're always going to get a bit of stick because you left, he told us. I think deep down people will also appreciate him. How the fans go about showing that is up to them, but at some point in the game, usually afterwards, I'm sure they'll give him a reception fitting of someone who's putting a lot of effort and a lot of energy into a long football Millwall career. It's always hard when a player comes back. They're essentially always the enemy for 90 minutes, and most players or managers that come back know what to expect. I had a really good relationship with Jed. He was always quite open about what might happen, and he's a really good character. Even in a difficult start to the season for West Brom, he's proved to be one of their main players straight away. My focus will be on trying to win the game and making him very unhappy. Ideally, he's a good lad, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people wanting to say hello to him at the end. Wallace, who scored 42 goals across 239 league games for Millwall, has already found the back of the net 3 times for the Baggies so far this season, providing a further 2 assists. In fact, many would argue that he's been their best player in what has been a dismal start to the campaign. Rowett is open that his side's knowledge of the attacker could help them at the den, but he admits that the argument goes both ways and that Wallace may know how to exploit certain vulnerabilities within Millwall's back line. When you've worked with someone for a long time, you know their strengths. You can say that we know certain weaknesses, but he's played against a lot of our defenders, so he can probably say exactly the same. Scott Malone, anyone? Whether someone has been here or not, I don't think it really matters. You can have a game plan, you can tactically analyse every team, but ultimately it's down to the players to do that in the heat of the battle on the pitch when the whistle blows. The information that you give them is important, but the tactics. But most of the games in the championship become about duels and and who comes out on top. Exactly. Scott Malone versus Jed Wallace. Who's going to win that one? That battle could decide the game, to be honest. That's the first story. Here we come with the second one. Also from southernnews.co.uk. He ticks all the boxes. West Brom reporter praises ex-Millwall forward ahead of the clash at the Den. The Baggies will head to SC16 Championship relegation zone after winning just 2 of their first 15 games. While West Brom have had a disastrous start to the Championship campaign, former Millwall attacker Jed Wallace has arguably been their standout player so far this season. The 28-year-old has already scored 3 goals and 2 assists, making him the Baggies' joint top scorer after 15 league games. Joint top scorer with 3 goals. The Athletics West Brom reporter Elias Burke spoke to News at Den about Wallace and his expectations for what the Mercurial forward could bring to the Hawthorns after his free transfer in the summer. Do I care about that? I'm not going to read all that. Saturday's match will be his first time back at the Den since leaving Millwall over the summer, and Wallace is fully prepared for a hostile reception when he arrives back in C16. And then they talk about the tweet. That tweet just speaks to the character that he is, to be honest. He knows full well that when you come in it as an opposition player, no matter how much you're respected by the Millwall abuse, you'll be subject by the Millwall fans, you'll be subject to dogs abuse, as he said. I've got no doubts that he'll put in a massive display. Then, just to shut them up, maybe, he's a top character, and I'm sure whoever the manager is will get the best out of him this week. I doubt he'll need much motivation. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, they're speaking to former Millwall player Jody Morris. Jody Morris, maybe West Brom manager. Not in time for tomorrow's game, but indeed. So moving on to this. Criticism brings out the best in Jed Wallace. Millwall defender Coops on why Demboos won't bother ex-Lion star. This is from londonnewsonline.co.uk. Jed Wallace will only use any stick he receives at the Den on Saturdays extra motivational fuel. That is the verdict of Millwall centre-back Jake Cooper, who knows exactly what makes the attacker tick. Wallace turned down a new long-term contract from Lions to sign for West Bromwich Albion on a 4-year deal in June. A key driver for the 28-year-old was to join a club that had major prospects of winning promotion to the Premier League. Oh, no. But the Baggies are not buying in, with manager Steve Bruce sacked last week. The 2-0 defeat to Bristol City at the Hawthorn on Tuesday saw them drop into the bottom three after the midweek round of fixtures. Wallace was a talismanic figure for Millwall and scored 42 goals in 260 appearances. Asked by fans on social media what reception he wanted this weekend, he replied, again in the tweet, 90 minutes of abuse and then a small clap. Cooper signed for Millwall on the same day as Wallace made a loan return to the Lions, January the 19th, 2017. Both would go on to make permanent transfers after Neil Harris's team won the League One playoffs at Wembley. Asked how a tough reception would affect Wallace, Cooper told the South London press, "Not at all. If anything, it will spur him on even more. It's probably why he asked the fans to give him a bit of stick during the game. I remember the things he used to say when he had a bad game. That he would sometimes go looking for negative comments because it gave him extra motivation. That was what he needed. I remember when Chopping praised Jed, it didn't help him so much. He responded off a bit criticism, it gave him an edge. But I don't think it matters what the fans do. Jed is someone who's so well motivated that he's got a lot of self-esteem. It means he can take things on the chin. And that's exactly the kind of professional you need to be when you're a focal point at a club like Millwall for 4 years. You couldn't have been a soft or weak character to have that weight on your shoulders. He was a sensible, level-headed guy. You'll never catch him messing around too much. He was very switched on. He would fall out with quite a few lads in training because his mouth would run away with him. I've seen some shouting sessions with players, myself including in that, but he was always totally honest and he told you what he thought about you. That was a great thing about him. Wallace produced double digits goals and assists in 2 campaigns in 1916, 1920 and 2021. He produced some unbelievable moments for the football club and unforgettable goals, said Cooper. It shouldn't make him go down. It should make him go down in Millwall history. He 100% should get a good reception for the amount of games he played here, also the amount of times I saw him go through real pain, pull a shirt on and play for the club. His fitness record probably speaks for itself in terms of how many minutes he played and how much we relied on him in those attacking areas, especially after Morrow and Greggs left. Knowing the fans, he will maybe get a few jeers, but he was a great member of the squad. Unfortunately, nothing could be worked out for him here in the end, and he's going to try and further his career. Try something different at West Brom. Cooper and Sean Hutchinson, who have both won the armband in the current campaign, are now the longest serving first teamers. Cooper is on 267 games for the Lions and has a contract that runs until the summer of 2024. Rangers tried to sign him in 2018 after Millwall just missed out on the Championship 6. The South London club refused to part with their prize asset. Middlesbrough made a double bid for Wallace and George Saville, only landing the latter. Then Rangers manager Stephen Gerrard had made Cooper a top target in that summer window. So now we've moved off of Jed Wallace and talking about Jake Cooper. Maybe going to Glasgow Rangers. I thought it was going to happen when you find out it's true and a conversation is going on. Cooper. You think Millwall will say okay because I've come in from Reading and I was only bought for around 250k. So when the offer is in the millions, I thought it would be quick and easy, but Millwall made it clear that I wasn't going and they wanted me to stay. I got on board with that. Jed was in the same scenario, but South did go. It was a funny summer for the club. Things were a bit here, there, and everywhere. Certainly, when I signed my last contract, I thought I'd be here for however long that is. The next 4 years, the club really showed a desire to improve, and since then, it's just gone on an upward trajectory. We're finished in a similar position in the league apart from one season, and the club has really tried to improve with the players and staff we've brought in. There's still plenty to put in place to jump into that top six and out of mid-table, which is where we find ourselves. Cooper says he has not thought about his longer-term situation. I've got 20 months on my contract, and that's still a long, long time. He said lots of things can happen. I'm a very short-term guy. It's all about doing as well as I can this season, and then we'll see if the club approach me at any point. Cooper is one of seasoned pros. In the latest edition of Mills Club podcast, he discussed the dressing room being quieter without the same kind of lively characters from earlier in his career. He recalled on Wall Talk how Jordan Archer filled Steve Morrison's brand new trainers with pasta sauce as a prank. Hilarious. It's changed, but maybe that is more about people taking their job seriously, said Cooper. When you lose Jed and Piercy, they're the main ones because they're so vocal. You can go back tomorrow and even people like Aidan O'Brien, Jane Ferguson and Marlon Romeo, they all have strong opinions. There isn't so much messing around or tomfoolery as there once was, but you also need some fun and it's starting to come back again. We are a stronger group because the new guys are starting to integrate themselves better. Someone like Flemo has put himself in the group and become very popular. We lost some big characters and it takes time for things to settle down. And now you're seeing others start showing their character, and that can also be seen in the results. Indeed. Good stuff there. Good stuff. Good interview from Jake Cooper there, including we've had one earlier with Flemming, now with Cooper. Very good stuff. Started off talking about Jed Wallace and started talking about himself and the team overall. That's from the South London Press, londonnewsonline.co.uk. So now we're going to get into the actual preview of tomorrow's game. Here's the historical record. We haven't played them that many times. I've sorted it in terms of Millwall at home to West Brom, so that's the last game there. January 2022, 2-0 win. Before that was 2-0 defeat, and we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defeats. West Bromwich Albion at the Den, only 5. A number of draws though. Surprisingly, 2-2 is a very good. Pops up a lot in terms of draws. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there in 1994. So 2-2 draw is popping up quite a bit, but also a lot of wins. This is a game that we do win a lot over the years, so which is good. It is good. When we don't win it, we generally fail to score, which I don't see us doing tomorrow. So maybe defeat will be off the charts unless West Brom can stop us from scoring. So moving on now to this from whoscored.com. So here's the last 6 games, and you can see not a lot of goals in the last 6 games. 6 goals for Millwall, 3 goals for West Bromwich Albion. A number of red cards back in the day, 2 in one game, and that game was it looks like it was just after the FA Cup semi-final. So that one must have been a crazy game. 12th for the 4th, 2004. Yeah, so 3 red cards in the last 6 games at the Den against West Bromwich Albion. Kind of weird, but okay. And we've won 3 of them, drawn 1, and lost 1 as well. Millwall have won 9 of their last 11 home matches in the Championship. Millwall have seen under 2.5 goals in the last 5 home matches against West Brom in all competitions. Millwall have scored at least 2 goals in 9 of their last 11 home matches, And Millwall have been winning at both half-time and full-time in the last 3 matches. Yes, indeed. So scrolling down, here's the table as it stands now. We are 8. Oh, we are 8. We're 8 on 23 points. 1 defeat in the last 6 games. They are 22nd. They've had 8 draws, which is the most amount of draws in the league. This is the table as it stands. The form table. They're the worst team in the league, 24th, rock bottom. 1 win, 2 draws, 3 defeats, only scored 5 goals, but only conceded 7. So they're not getting smashed. They are not getting smashed. They just can't score. So, as we've seen in the history of Millwall versus West Brom, if they can stop us from scoring, they have a chance. So that might be a possibility for them to try and do that. It seems that's what they're doing in their last 6 games, only conceding 7 goals. Which, when you consider their bottom of the form table, that's kind of interesting that they've only conceded 7. So that's the form table. Now let's go back and do home and away. We are 2nd in the league in home. This is total. This isn't form. This is total. In total table, 6 wins, 2 defeats. Those 2 defeats still sting against Reading and QPR. We failed to score in those 2 games. So again, if we don't score, we're probably going to lose. Which, of course, because if you don't score, you can only get 0-0, or you're going to lose. Those are your options. So, yeah, we've only conceded 6 goals at home this season. Interesting stuff. So, going to away. So West Brom, again, the 4 draws away. Let's have a look at that. So they've got 4 draws at home, and they've got 4 draws away. Okay. They played 7. They've scored 8 goals away and only conceded 8. Okay, so yeah. They do have a pretty decent defence, it seems. That might be a problem. So if we switch this up in terms of Millwall's home games and West Brom's away games. So actually, their last away game they won. They beat Reading 2-0. And they narrowly lost to Preston, the freak team this season. We've got a very weird stat line, Preston. They drew at Norwich, which, well, we lost 2-0 there, but they went there and drew. But they drew at Wigan 1-1. They drew at Huddersfield 2-2, and they lost. Oh, that was in the cup. So they lost in the cup at Derby. Whereas Millwall, last 2 home games, clean sheet. And apart from the 2 games we didn't score, I think we scored 2 goals in every home game we've had. So that is interesting as well. Okay. So the game against Blackpool, see, we won that, but we didn't keep a clean sheet. All the other wins you can see there, we won it, kept a clean sheet, double whammy. Can we keep a clean sheet against West Brom? Will they keep a clean sheet against us? Here's the strengths and weaknesses. Oh. West Brom's weaknesses: very weak against defending counter-attacks and defending against through ball attacks. Is this time for Mason Bennett to step up? He started the last game. Will it be the same team starting? Maybe. Here's the thing. This might fuck us up. West Brom's strengths: very strong at defending set pieces. If they do well against our set pieces, that might kind of pull the rug from under us. That could be a thing that's going to affect us. Match forecast: West Brom will score a long shot. West Brom will score as a result of individual skill. West Brom will dominate possession. I don't know about you, but those first two ones sound like Jed Wallace to me. Long shot, Jed Wallace. Um, Again, he knows the players. He's probably going to be going up against Scott Malone. George Long might be in goal. Could be a crazy one there. Someone's actually predicted an away win of 2-0. Don't know about that, mate. So let's get into the actual prediction from this website. There's some team news, but it's not accurate, so let's skip over that. There have been under 2.5 goals scored in West Brom's last 4 away matches. West Brom have failed to win 9 of the last 10 matches. So there you go. Tom Bradshaw was the unlikely hero for Millwall on Wednesday night as he netted a hat-trick inside 33 minutes. As the Lions romped to a 3-0 home win against Watford, South London club have risen to 8th in the table following 3 successive championship wins. There was no continuation of the new manager bounce on Tuesday night as interim manager Richard Beale oversaw a 2-0 home defeat against Bristol Cities. The Baggies have won just 1 of the last 10 championship matches ahead of the trip to South London. And indeed, they predict Millwall 2, West Brom 0. So they reckon the misery will continue. Indeed. Well, you would hope so. We do hope so. And you can see if you look on the right that Jed Wallace is rated on WhoScored.com at 6.93. So he is indeed rated as West Bromwich Albion's best player. And Zian Flemming 6.98 for Millwall. So getting a better score than Jed Wallace at the moment, which is nice because even though he's not really playing the same position, he is kind of the replacement for Jed Wallace, and it's good to see him starting to kick on and doing so well. So from this website, Millwall 2, West Brom 0 prediction. Now let's get on to David Prutton. What does he predict? This is from SkySports.com. As we go down, where are we? Probably right at the bottom. Here we go. So David Prutton predicts Millwall 2, West Brom 1. Interesting stuff. I thought the Watford game would be a draw. I was quite shocked at how poor Watford were. The way they played was just bizarre. Old style, they would kick it up forward and then try and dribble forward with it. Whenever they tried to pass the ball to each other, it was just so bad. It was going out, throwing all kind of stuff. I think this game will be the draw. It's 2 games in 4 days, even though it's 2 home games for us, so it's not that bad for us. I still think this game will be the draw. I think, as we just seen about the set pieces, West Brom are good at defending. They don't concede many goals. And I think it's going to be 2-2. I think it's going to be Millwall 2, West Brom 2. And of course, Jed Wallace will score. And will he celebrate? Probably. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends. But yeah, I think Jed's going to score. I think it's going to be Millwall 2, West Brom 2. And on that note, thank you for watching and goodbye.